Okay, the hook I have in the vise is a light wire dry fly hook in a size 14. I'm just going to start dressing that hook back from the eye to the bend. And I'm using an 8/0 uni thread in tan. So we're going to come back to about the barb or so. Start tying in some materials here. Okay, the first material that we're going to tie in here is some small gold wire. Then we're going to tie in, I'm using a brown, use the color of your choice, but you want to tie in a Hackle, dry fly Hackle size for your hook. And then for the body on this, now there's multiple ways you can do this body. What we like to use is this Jameson Shetland Spindrift in Oyster. This is the same stuff you use for the Utah Killer Bug, which if you don't have any of those in your box, you're really missing out. So this stuff is worth getting. It's not too expensive, and this big old roll will last you forever. So this is what we like to use on the body. Now that being said, and I'm just going to tie that in here at the rear. That being said, there's a lot of things you can use on the body of this fly. You can just dub it. You can use yarn, you know, small ultra chenille or something like that. Whatever you want to fill in the body in this is fine. Also, if you clean things up, you can just use thread if you want to use a thread that will match your foam. So you don't have to use this spindrift, but it is what we use. So now that we got that tied in, I'm going to go ahead and tie in my body. I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch or so of that foam sticking off the rear. Get a couple wraps around it and cinch it down. Then get a few wraps in front of it. This really helps cinch down that foam and keep it from wanting to roll so much. There we go. Now I'm going to advance my thread up. Leave yourself about a hook eye length or so. And now we're going to start palmering some of this stuff up. First thing I'm going to take up is my body material. So if you were tying this without the spindrift, this is the portion where you dub the body. So we're just going to wrap this up. Once I get to my thread, I'm just going to capture that and tie it off. Trim out that excess. Now we're going to bring that saddle feather up to the front. Pretty tight wraps. You want it heavily hackled. And also from the bottom, you can see how much that feather contrasts with that underbody. That gives it a little bit of a segmented look. Adds a little bit of realism to the pattern. Get that head cleaned up. Trim out that feather. Okay, now with our gold wire, we're going to counter wrap that. And you can see I'm kind of doing a zigzaggy wrap with it, trying not to trap too many of those fibers. But this really helps reinforce the pattern and makes it much stronger. Used to leave this step out just pretty much out of laziness, and we were, you know, especially catching natives, we were having so many of these hackle feathers fail on us that we decided to start reinforcing it all the time. So it's just one little additional step that really adds to the longevity of your fly, and I highly recommend it. So got that captured. I'm just going to helicopter that out. Now we're going to take our foam, stretch it down over the back. You can come in here if you want and trim off the top hackle feathers to make a neater body when you lay this down. Me personally, I don't care that I've got some hackle squishing out the sides there. Doesn't bother me a bit, but if that's something that bothers you, you can trim those hackle feathers flat on the top. Now I'm just going to capture that foam up here at the front, get it tied down. Again, get some wraps in front of it as well. There we go. You should have something that looks like that. Quite easy. Okay, I'm going to take just a little bit of the meat off of that piece of foam. We'll leave it long for the moment. It's not going to hurt a thing. Now we're going to get started on the wing. I'm going to tie in some crystal flash here, and the color I'm using is root beer. Most hoppers have relatively dark wings, so this adds a little flash but keeps it dark. I'm just going to trim that right at the end of the body, and it's going to splay out. That's fine. Now in my stacker I've got some natural collared elk hair, about a half a pencil's worth. That's going to become our main wing. Get that stacked up. I cleaned out all the under fur and all the short hairs. We're just going to set that elk hair right up here on the top. We want it to end right at about the end of the body or so. We're just going to wrap that in right up on top of that crystal flash, like so. It'll flare just a little bit, that's fine. Now all this excess, the crystal flash, the elk hair, we're just going to cut off straight, just like so, just like you would if you were leaving a little head on an elk hair caddis. There we go. Now we're going to tie in two rubber legs, one on each side. So I'm just going to capture that over here, get it tied in, and do the same thing on this side. Just do a couple loose wraps until you get it set where you want it, then tighten it down a little bit. Alright, the last step is we're going to tie in a Grizzly's hackle feather here. This one I like to tie in a feather that's a little oversized. It's a little big for the hook I'm using. And I always like to use a different collar up on the front than I did the body. But we're just going to wrap that right here in place. We're not going to move too much with it. Give it a good 5 or 6 wraps or so. And then capture it and tie it off. Kind of snaking my thread through those hackle fibers to help reinforce them a little bit. And then once that's tied in, I'm going to jump my thread up to the front. Sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and lip finish. Okay, cut out that hackle feather. We're going to trim the front of the foam just bigger than the hook eye. The back legs we want to be about the same length as the body, which that is. That looks pretty good. And these front legs we're going to trim a bit shorter, like so. That's it. That's all there is to the pattern. We thank you guys for stopping by today and checking out this video. We ask that you please like and subscribe and leave comments. You can ask us questions or whatever. We love to hear from you. But we appreciate you all so much. Thanks again for stopping by. Tight lines.